Hi, everybody. My name is Lisa Keslar from Keslar Insurance, and I am thrilled to be here today on behalf of Cheers for Charity New Hampshire. And I am thrilled to be here with my dear friend JoAnn. Hey, JoAnn.
Yes, hi, I'm JoAnn Burchuk. I'm with Lighthouse Physical Therapy, and we have another great guest with us today. I'd love to welcome Sandra from Birchtree Center here in Portsmouth. Sandra, welcome, and please introduce yourself and tell us what you do there and a little bit about Birchtree Center.
Yeah, it's actually very exciting to be here. My name is Sandra Pierce-Jordan. I'm the executive director here at the Birchtree Center. I'm also a BCBA, which is a board certified behavior analyst. And here at the Birchtree Center, we're a nonprofit organization that provides services to children and youth with autism. And we have a very large outreach department that provides services out in the public schools, community organizations, family homes. And we also have a center-based program where students will come to us and receive year-round full-day programming here at the center for kids who need more intensive services than we can provide out in the public schools. Our outreach department, the whole purpose of the outreach department is actually to bring services out into the public schools and training and staff support in order to prevent a student from actually needing a more intensive programs such as our center-based program. But what's exciting is we actually have a continuum of services here, from full day year-round at the center to we might be providing parent training in our outreach department to help a parent be more successful with helping support their child at home.
So I love the name. Any particular relevance how that name got created?
Yes, well, actually, the white birch is the state tree for New Hampshire, and they actually grow in clusters with shallow roots. And the founding director of Birchtree chose that name because it really takes a cluster of individuals and a community in order to support an individual with autism. So it actually it's a wonderful name.
I figured there was a meaning behind it. So yeah. That's great. Thank you. So, wow, it sounds like, so your outreach program sounds amazing. How many schools and homes are your people out there working in?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. They travel thousands of miles a year, and we go to northern Massachusetts. We do a bulk of work here in New Hampshire. We also head into southern Maine as well. And it's all about, we have a team of BCBAs. We have 4 full-time BCBAs. We have a part-time BCBA. The outreach program director is a BCBA. I actually provide support to the outreach department as well, because that's my history prior to coming to Birchtree. I was a full-time public school consultant. And BCBAs, for those of you who aren't familiar, board certified behavior analyst. So it's a branch of behavioral psychology who provides supports to help not only reduce interfering behaviors in a child's repertoire, but even more importantly, to teach skills. Because, for example, a child without a disability just learns how to brush their teeth by hanging out in the bathroom with older siblings or parents who basically say, brush your teeth, do like I do. But a child with autism might need to learn that skill much more systematically, and it might take them a lot longer. And so the outreach department will go into public schools, everything from training special education teams like occupational therapists, speech pathologists, case managers on how to improve the quality of the programming that they're doing. We might also go into a family home to train the parents, but we also have a team of direct service staff that if the public school needs a more intensive model, that will actually put in place what's called an RBT, a registered behavior technician, which is similar to a paraprofessional, but with an additional level of training and credential. And again, all of those services are put in place in order to prevent the need to go to a site such as our center-based program. So I actually say our whole point of outreach is to put the center-base out of business. But our goal in outreach is actually to transfer our skill base to the public school to put the outreach department out of business, because there's always another student who needs our help. So I never worry. My whole goal is to train up people out there so we can fade out of the equation.
Sounds like that's not going to happen, but
I try.
Yeah.
I'm constantly trying to tell a public school, you can do this. You don't need us anymore. And they're like, yeah, we do. Not yet.
So, autism, boy, you hear about it so much in the news, and what are the recent numbers as far as how many kids out there are they diagnosing now? I mean, the last one I heard, I was just like, oh, that can't be. Like,
I know that the number, believe it or not, is 1 in 44 right now. And so some say, are the numbers increasing? What's going on? I mean, there's much better identification. Pediatricians are being better trained of how to recognize it. It's now a spectrum disorder. So the diagnostic criteria has actually broadened. So therefore, more individuals are receiving the diagnosis as well relative to that. And there are much better assessment tools that now exist where people can conduct an evaluation and provide an individual with the diagnosis. To get the diagnosis of autism, there's not a blood test. You can't take a certain medical test in order to get it. It's all based on behavioral observation. And therefore, people are just becoming more skilled and trained at observing behaviors to better recognize it as well in order for individuals to receive the services that they need. An individual with autism, will have social impairments, and therefore, back when we think about what it was like, I went to school in the 70s, and so you think of those individuals who had very quirky, unusual social behaviors. They didn't receive the diagnosis back then, but I bet if they fast forwarded to this day, they would receive that sort of diagnosis and receive better supports. So special education has improved dramatically over the years relative to individualizing and specializing in different diagnostic presentations as well.
Do you think the numbers would have been similar back then had the tools been what they are today, or do you see that there has been a substantial increase in?
There definitely seems to be an increase, but what is used to diagnose individuals with autism is called the DSM, which is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. And over the years, what was identified as autism within that medical book has changed dramatically over the years, and it has broadened significantly. And therefore, the diagnostic criteria is very different than it was back then. So it's actually like apples and oranges. Although they do also say, some people hypothesize our environment is much more toxic. And so autism is the brains of individuals with autism develop differently than the brains of an individual without that diagnosis. So therefore, I often, we have people who debate the whole vaccination argument. And I have parents I work with who firmly believe, vaccines cause autism. Other parents don't believe it. There isn't research behind it right now, but I often focus more on how a child got to where they are and I focus more on the fact of what is it they need right now, what kind of supports and services. And so if an individual is having communication difficulties, if an individual is having social interaction difficulties, if an individual is having trouble with transitions and their behavior presentation, to me, it's less about how they got to where they are. It's more about what can we do to help them improve the quality of their lives so that they can have a solid life. And we all know, I've worked with brilliant individuals over the years who can't keep a job because they can't respond to an adult's direction. And therefore, that's the social impairment that comes along with autism. And so a lot of young adults with autism cannot keep a job, not because they're not smart enough for the job, but because they don't have the social skills to know when your boss tells you to do something, you do it, even if you disagree with them. And even if you think your boss is dumb, and you don't tell your boss they have bad breath because you can smell coffee on their breath. We would back away from somebody. An individual with autism might actually tell someone your breath smells bad. You need to brush your teeth. And that's the kind of social skill development that they need to learn.
Yeah, that it's great. I mean, you hear so much the increase, so it's great to have organizations like yours that work with the kids. And I love the fact that you're going into the homes, you're going into the schools right where the kids are. Because I mean, the whole idea is, to try to keep the kids in an environment that they feel part of versus being excluded from that.
Exactly.
So,
They're
Yeah.
local communities. I mean, my goal is to teach. We focus on, for example, food shopping, teaching an individual how to food shop, how to enter a store, find the item you want. Years ago, I used to work with a mother and she said, all I want my son to learn to say is when the cashier says paper or plastic, but they actually can answer the question. I know that's not a question anymore. And so therefore, if the family shops in Market Basket, I'm not going to teach them how to food shop at Hannaford's because that's not their local grocery store. I'm a Hannaford's fan because it's really convenient to me. I get lost at Market Basket, and therefore we find out what's important to a family. What stores do they go to? If Walmart, if Super Walmart is their store, we're not going to go out and teach that individual how to navigate Trader Joe's if that family doesn't ever shop there. And so it's all about priorities, and parent involvement is very key relative to what it is they want their child to learn. I remember the founding director of Birchtree wanted her son how to make a hamburger. So we had a grill here teaching him how to make a hamburger. That was a priority. Family enjoyed hamburgers, so we're going to set out to cook hamburgers.
That's perfect. That's so great. So do you guys do you ever need volunteers, or is it just your staff? And related to, I'm trying to talk about ways that the people who might be listening could help, right? So is it volunteers? Is it money? Was it awareness? What kinds of things are you looking for?
Yeah. That's actually a great question. There's several things. First of all, we as a nonprofit, when we look at our budget, we do receive tuition from the public schools, but it actually doesn't cover all of our expenses. So outreach department helps with the expenses, but then obviously our fundraising as well. Here's a good example. We had a student who had a job at a restaurant, and the dress code required him to wear jeans every day when he went to work. He actually didn't own any jeans. He wore sweatpants most of the time at school. The family was, had some financial complexities. And so we bought him a few pairs of jeans for part of his dress code at work, but that's not necessarily going to be covered by the tuition from the public school. So certainly we do fundraising on our end, and I'll talk about fundraising as well as the volunteers. We have an annual auction, which is our largest fundraiser. We hold it every fall. We're very excited to have it in person again this year. We haven't had it in person since 2019. So our auction is a really great, it's a live auction. It's got silent auction, live bidding. It's got music. It's very low key. One can actually show up at the auction in jeans, which is really exciting. So we do love folks to come to the auction. It's on October 1st. It's on our website, www.birchtreecenter.org. We also are always looking for donations. We actually, people will often volunteer us, gift cards to restaurants, hotels, locations that people can bid on at the auction, which is really exciting. We also do love volunteers. Volunteers do a lot of help here, whether it's behind the scenes. We've had volunteers come in before, and they've actually gone out and gathered auction donations for us. But we've also had volunteers come here and run a field day with us because our staff are very busy working directly with the students. So we've had volunteers come and work alongside our management members and having a field day. They have come in sometimes to work on art projects or read to our students, which is all very exciting. We very much, it's a combination of and the public awareness. I think it's very important. Our center-based program is very small, so I think a lot of people aren't aware of us. And we were in Portsmouth originally, then we moved to Newington. We just came back to Portsmouth, but I find a lot of people aren't aware of what the Birchtree Center is. And I often think of us as a small but very important organization in the community. And a lot of people don't realize the spread of services that we provide. Some people think of us just as a small center-based school, when in reality, our outreach department has a lot to offer the community.
Amazing. So much good information. We so appreciate all the work that you're doing for our community, for those families that need these services and these supports. And we're grateful to have learned a lot more about it today. Thank you so much for taking your time.
It was wonderful. Thank you for letting me share our story. It's wonderful to get it out there.
It's our pleasure.